Welcome to another episode of The Void with Welcome to another edition of The Void in association with Link Sports. Link, share, play. And tonight our motto is talk, listen, debate. So who we got in the house? We've got Gareth Herbert, former England #1. Even though Terry hates to admit it. Terry Young, double Commonwealth gold medalist and US Open finalist, even though all of us hate to admit it. We've got Darren Blake, former junior kid at England #1. And we've got Gavin Evans, double European youth medalist and now national coach. So we're going to be speaking about what we need.
It's missed me out.
I was going to say, but Darren.
Oh shit! I'm not allowed to get invited now. Okay.
You're not the Olympic torch guy. You better get his arse in.
I got. Call me Zeus.
Start again.
Yeah.
I was asked to leave Darius out, especially if
Yeah. Fine, then leave me out. I don't mind.
Right, let's start again. Welcome to another episode of The Void in association with Link Sports. Link, share, play. On today's show, we've got Darius Knight, former UK #2 and Madeira Open winner, and a bit of a character in the game. Gavin Evans, national coach and former double European youth medalist. Darren Blake, former junior and cadet England #1. Terence Cecil Young, double Commonwealth gold medalist and US Open finalist. And Gareth Herbert, former England #1, and his biggest supporter is, of course, Terry Young. Let's get on to the subject. We're talking about what could make table tennis bigger. When I was playing before the war, we used to talk a lot about what could make table tennis bigger. There was lots of debates. And so tonight it's going to be interesting to see what everybody thinks. So let's kick off with Gavin Evans. Gavin? Just after you reach for your beer, I'd like to ask you, do you think that if we had a world-winning team in the sport, so if, Pitchford and Drinkle and these guys won the World Championship, would it increase interest in the sport from the public?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not necessarily sure it would, unless there is some exposure which is capitalised on. So if he was to win a European medal or world medal, the media behind that would have to be very, very good to get people who don't know table tennis already involved. And I think in the world we live in with social media now, the biggest thing in sport is to get the characters known and to get the characters liked. And I think the answer to that is probably no. I don't think it would actually make any difference. I think the big thing here is we need to build the sport as a whole and build the characters within the sport. I think what comes first is how we build the sport, and how we do that is hopefully we'll get into that a bit later in this discussion. But I don't think it would, no, because I mean, Liam's beaten the world #1 2 times. He's beaten probably the greatest player of all time in Ma Long, and nobody really knew about it. So I just think we need to start finding a way of getting the sport on TV, and how we do that is building some strong characters in the sport which the public love.
Terry, do you think that if we had a world championship winning team, it would make a difference?
No, I don't think either. Okay, can I?
Are you asking me?
Oh, Terry, you go, Terry. Sorry.
I agree with Gavin. I don't think. I think it starts right from the ground up. But I think you have to have the right characters in charge of the sport. That's the governing bodies. If I'm being completely honest, I think there's too many old heads in table tennis, and not enough open-minded people who are able to promote the individuals as well as the sport. It's very difficult, table tennis, because it's such a difficult sport to relate to. Everyone loves table tennis. Yeah. You talk to my neighbours, they're playing all the time. You speak to people and you turn around and say that you used to play. They go, I'm a great table tennis player, I love table tennis. But are they interested in watching it? No. it's very, very difficult because the rallies are very short. The spin, people can't relate to because the rackets that they generally use at home and out in recreational use are not particularly good. So they don't understand.
Okay, look, just focusing on if we had the best team in the world. Darius, what's your view? If we had the best team in the world, would that make a massive difference?
I don't think really, but I think obviously, like everyone said, this from the ground up. My option would be is to link it with football. You know, like I would play for a football team, British League. Put me playing for Arsenal or Chelsea. You automatically get more fans because obviously, if you're a Chelsea supporter, you're a diehard Chelsea supporter. I think you've got to involve betting companies as well because I think it's quite lucrative for the betting side of things. I think we just have to just take it as if like, you know, it's tennis or football. I think we can only approach it that way. And it means that, you know, I think there's a lot of wealthy people that play table tennis, that are involved in tennis. I know there's a lot of there's bounce, there's a ping pong bar that everybody plays. The idea is, I think, behind it is that you have to get it associated with something to get it to jump up. And then maybe it can stand on its own. I think in that way, you need to get the right marketing team, get the best guy from FIFA.
Coming on to different angles on this. So I just want to focus on the actual essence of the sport, because when I was playing, people always said if we had a world champion, table tennis would be huge. So Darren, what do you think? I mean, you're a marketing guy. Do you think if we had a world champion?
I think the standard of the team definitely makes a difference to what you can talk about. If you think of even Des was because of his standard, why everyone talks about Des Douglas back in the day, because of how good he was. But I agree with the guys. I don't think just being a world championship winning team. I think Olympic winning team would make a difference a bit because you'd be able to get behind it for a while. That would help with that exposure. But definitely you need more than that. You need the characters on top of that. You can see with football, can't you? With the England, football's so big in England, but they haven't won the world championship since 1966. So relevant to how strong they are, it would always stay good because you've got a following. You need people to follow. You need to be close to people. I mean, it's huge when you look at China. China's massive. Football's now the national sport in China, for example. But it's still, we still wouldn't watch China play each other at football. Do you know what I mean? So it's more about who you follow, the characters, no matter how good they are. If China became the best team in the world, you still probably wouldn't follow them at football, you know, because you...
Gareth has set up I don't know if Gareth set it up, but Gareth is creating a really fantastic academy for table tennis. And Gareth, is that part of the psyche, is you would like to develop a world championship team? And if you did, if you're going to make it...
I guess the dream goal is to make is at least a European recognised team and actually play in Europe and compete in big competitions. So that's the goal for the club. I've got a slightly different answer to the lads, actually. I think if you look at the World Ping Pong, there's a lot of interest in that. So some people that I work with, for example, watch World Ping Pong.
We're going to be coming on to that later.
Yeah, but I think looking at the sports that are big in England, they are sports that England are good at, and games. So darts, snooker, for example, are really good examples. I don't watch table tennis unless it's Paul or Liam. However, I'll watch some of the ping pong when Andrew Bagley's playing, or when Matt Ware or Chris Duran or Gavin Rumgay, because there's an interest. If there was no interest, so if there were just German players, French players, Chinese players, I wouldn't watch.
No, I think you're right. I think Herbie's right. The question you initially said, Guy, was would it make it big? I don't think it would make it big. It would definitely help, though.
Yeah,
if you ask, would it help being strong? Because then you've got characters to follow. You need it to be strong to have a chance, for sure.
Yeah,
no, I think Herbie, obviously talking about Bagley and Rumgay. I think he's saying that he watches that because he can relate to them, because he knows them.
That's right. There's an interest.
And that's what I was getting to earlier. Having the individuals so that the general public know them, because table tennis is looked at as a geeky sport. You know, people don't associate table tennis with real characters, with guys who are expressing their emotions and feelings because they don't know us. They don't know the guys that do that. Yeah. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have good and bad, you know, people that are a little bit controversial. And I think once that happens, if you can get the media on board and show the general public the individuals and their characters, that will help, because people will want to watch, because they don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
You know, they
About
are
people who are a bit of a character. Right? Darius, are there enough characters in the game, and do we need more characters?
I think it's not always about characters. I think it's obviously just a following. I think it's important to have people from different places of the world or of England, because obviously a northern guy is a bit different to a guy from the south, you know. Characters do help, but then are you allowed to express yourself in the sport? The question is probably not. You know, you've got to stay in the guidelines and not be yourself. I mean, you know, I was a bit lucky when I was young to have opportunities outside of the sport. And I was able to do that. But obviously, I think the sport knew that, and I knew that was important. Well, I didn't really know at that age it was important for me to do it. But obviously, it was important. It's just obviously, I think it's just having the right people out there. And I think on a Tapeton's court, you know, how much can you get your personality out? It's very, very difficult. In ping pong, there's a lot more natural professional setup scenes to make that personality come out. You know, someone like Chris Ryan is amazing to watch in the ping pong. Rumgay is amazing. Bagley is very, very classy.
What's amazing about Rumgay? Tell us.
It's celebration. I mean, it's celebration.
It's outrageous. I mean, which man gives himself a wedgie? It's crazy. Yeah. I wouldn't do it if you paid me any money. But I mean, he does that. He feels great about it. And I think his matches are always kind of like breathtaking. You know, he's quite confident, slightly arrogant, but he's got the right borderline of just how to entertain the crowd. He's a Scottish braveheart. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy watching him. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's a heartache. You know, regarding Andrew Bagley kind of thing, he's just a sheer classy sportsman, gentleman. You know, gets there, does the job. It's like you say to your kid, be like Andrew. You know, but I mean, he's not a big character. I think he just gets the job done, and everybody likes a winner as well, a champion, but a champion with class. You know, and I think Andrew is that. You know, he looks very classy.
Gavin, would you allow characters in your national team?
Yeah, 100%. I think if you take away the character, you take away their natural instinct. And I think to get the best out of players, you have to work on instinct. And you can't, if you've got a natural risk taker as a character, you need them to play in that way. Otherwise, they're playing in a way which doesn't suit their natural instincts. And at 9-all, they're never going to be playing in a way that isn't what they're naturally born to do. So I feel that to get the best out of your players, you've got to work with their character. You've got to work with who they are. If they're a safe player, like an Andrew Bagley, Darius was talking about, he's a very safe player. So at 9-all, you know he's going to grease the ball up with spin and put that ball on the table. Take someone like Paul, who's a risk taker. You know that there's a chance he wants to go for it. So you have to work with that. Otherwise, you're just killing the characters, and you're killing.
You're talking about characters on the table. What about the characters off the table? What about how they lead their lives? And we want a player in a national team that's in the papers for other reasons other than Tabletons.
I think from my perspective, if they're doing the job in the hall in the right way, and they're leading a professional life which will help them perform, then if they've got a bit of character because they're a bit of a Jack the Lad, then that actually probably helped build the sport.
Let's take it further. Not just Jack the Lad. Jack the Lad isn't getting someone in the papers. You know, let's say that, you know, you've got someone that, like Beckham had, when he was playing football, he had a whole entourage of people. You as national team captain, if you was going to play a game in Sheffield and a player was attracting a lot of press and attention, would you be happy with that situation?
It just depends.
Take your time.
It depends if they're bringing the sport into disrepute or not. If they're making the sport look terrible because of it, then I would say this is not acceptable. This can't happen. If the involvement of the media was a positive thing for the sport, I might actually think, you know what, this is actually quite good for the sport, and I might let it ride. But I think if it was making it a bad reflection on the sport and a bad reflection on who we are and the principles we have, then I would stamp it out. But it's. I mean,
if you look, did any of you guys watch Netflix, The Last Dance?
Yeah.
Loved it, man. It's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
There's a prime example. You've got Jordan, who is the epitome of professional. Sends out an exemplary example to all of his teammates, but pushes his teammates. And then you have the other side of that flip is someone like Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Now, Dennis as an extrovert, very kind-hearted from what and a really good person, but needed to push the boundaries, the limits, because the stress of playing under probably Jordan and Pippen and those guys was too much for him to take. So he needed to release, and going to Vegas and partying was part and parcel. Now, is that putting the sport into disrepute?
No, I don't think it is.
Probably not, but I think that at the same time, it made a big highlight of Dennis Rodman, what he's doing, but he did the job on the court.
If they're doing the job, they're doing the job, aren't they? And
but the problem you have is that it sets an example to maybe others who feel that they can do the same as Dennis Rodman, but when it comes to the court, they can't. Now, Dennis Rodman needed to be the way that he was, and it helped him to relax. And then when he turned up on court, when it was game time, he was the best rebounder. And
it's a balance, isn't it?
So it's a balance.
I guess could he have been?
Does negative press affect table tennis?
No, I don't think it does. I think. Let's be honest. We watched The Last Dance and we watched the Dennis Rodman, and none of us thought any bad of basketball. We're looking at the character. Yeah. So if you look at, we all know someone in this chat, Terry, who, if you were number one in the world, you'd be the most watched sportsman ever, just because of the character. Now, people won't say table tennis is a bad sport, let's not play for seeing some of the behaviours. They'd actually just think what a character Terry Young is. And I think that's the difference. I don't think they would judge the whole sport based on one or two people with real character. So Gavin Rumgay, when he was doing the boxer shorts celebration, for example, all the people at work were telling me about Gavin Rumgay. They were the person that they remembered. Yeah, but no one thought, oh, ping pong, let's not watch that. It was good. It was good for the sport. And I think it's the same with football.
A sport like table tennis needs some controversial people involved.
Ronnie O'Sullivan in snooker. If you think about the Ronnie, I think people hate to admit it, but everyone likes a bad boy. They hate to admit it, but everyone likes it. The Ronnie O'Sullivan of snooker, he's been an absolute brilliant ambassador for snooker, even though some of his behaviours you wouldn't teach your 5-year-old son. But actually, what he's done for snooker and the amount of views they've got because of that, I think is fantastic. And so it's that thing about everyone likes a bad boy, even though you wouldn't coach it, everybody likes it. So it's
they don't judge the sport by it. I don't believe they judge the sport by it. I really don't.
Exactly.
Table tennis, like I said, table tennis is looked upon as geeks.
Yes.
And the thing is, if I'm being honest, there's a lot of geeks in table tennis. I wasn't a geek, but people look at table tennis like that. That's just the way that it is. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to be associated with geeks or that way in time, because it becomes boring. They're just so. In some respects, you need to allow people, like you said earlier, Gavin, to be themselves. And look, you're going to get yellow cards, you're going to get red cards, and sometimes they're going to cost themselves matches, important matches, when they need to really focus because they've lost their emotions on a game. But that is part and parcel of it. If you want to create table tennis and help promote it, you need to have people. You need to have people that people want to watch.
Sorry, don't pass tomorrow because geeks are coming to get you. Darren.
That is the balance. That is the balance, because for Gavin, that is the balance as a national team coach. Because, like you say, if you're managing adults, you have to let them express themselves as characters. You're not going to be able to treat them like school kids and hold them back. Mm-hmm. At the same time, sometimes you might see what they're doing wrong with their individual career, but for the sport, it could be better. I remember you, Herbie. I can't remember, was it Italian Open when you got wasted the night before one match and you end up beating one of the top players in the world? That's probably the worst thing for your career, because you probably thought you could do it every tournament.
Don't worry, I'm going to edit that bit out.
You've got to edit that.
You're a captain.
You did it in Sweden. You did it in Swedish Open. We were arm wrestling, and Herbie went out. He didn't come in until about 5-6 o'clock in the morning. The next day, when he played at 9 o'clock in the morning, and beat Eric Varane, who was about 70 in the world.
Yeah, that was the one.
I don't remember that.
I mean, it's difficult. Some people can't do it, you know. Some people can't do that. I remember I played in
But it still wasn't good for Herbie's career, you know. That was still the wrong thing to do.
No.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but it was still good having. You still need characters for sure. You need banter. You need
but it's life, though, isn't it?
people to talk about.
The thing is this, is that obviously I've been across many sports, and what you find is negative publicity gets the biggest publicity. No one likes to put stuff on the people as praising people, but if you've got a negative edge about you and you can use it positively, then you can get big publicity. But a lot of players of character are worried about the whole national table tennis thing because they do feel
early 90s or whatever, maybe even before that.
Normal table tennis then.
Sorry, say that again.
So why doesn't Barry Hearn promote I don't call it normal tennis.
I mean, the thing is with
too complicated.
The thing is with darts is what you have to remember is a lot of people who play darts and like darts like the social aspect of it. So that's in the pub. My dad's a big drinker. He drinks 5-10 pints a night every night and always has done.
Stick to the question. I don't know telling everyone about.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is darts is big because you socialise with it. So when they play it,
ping pong big. Why is ping pong big?
Well, yeah, you're right, Terry. Yes, you're right.
It's big. It's the money aspect and the people that are managing it. Barry Hearn and his team work on the ping pong championships.
Hasn't it got something to do with the actual aesthetics of the game?
No.
Slowing the rallies down?
No, it's got nothing.
Well, they tried that, but when you watch it now, the rallies aren't actually that.
They're not long. Are they? But the long rallies are quite.
No, they're epic, man. It's epic. It's epic.
Listen,
come on.
listen.
It's
The guys.
But it's not as slow as it was when they first started.
But nobody can see the difference in TV. To people that don't know table tennis,
and that's what I was just about to say to you. People in general, the general public, don't know the difference between ping pong and table tennis because they don't know it. They just see ping pong. They think that ping pong and table tennis are the same thing. They don't know that those bats.
Is it really epic?
The semi-finals and finals are unbelievable.
It's epic, man. I'm wetting myself. It's epic. I'm sitting there, my armpits are sweating when I'm commentating. You know, it's epic. I watch and I think, wow, what the hell are these guys doing? You know, I just think this is really cool. Of course, as a table tennis lover, there's no comparison. Table tennis is a different level because table tennis is for smart people. Spin, you know, quality, everything. It's all what I stand for. In my whole life, I try to do everything better and better and better. But in ping pong, just taking my table tennis away from it, it's epic, man. It's epic. It's simple. It's really simple. Kids are going to be going crazy. You're close to the court. You know, the PowerPoint thing is just a great evolution of table tennis. You know, it's epic. For me, like, it's just updated. It's like an iPhone update.
Let's ask Darren Blake a question. And Darren's a marketing guy with a huge job in the bakery business. So ping pong is the brand is marketed in a certain way. So what do we need to do with table tennis to market it in a certain way so that we get enough TV time, etc., etc.?
The first thing is to get to the general public more, because as the guys are saying, within the table tennis community, everyone knows about table tennis, everyone knows the top players, everyone follows it. I mean, we've gone back in ourselves, haven't we, and looking at social media, it's a lot more looked at in table tennis in general. It's getting it out to the general public, the recreational element more. And that's where you say, like ping pong, people can watch it without the spins, getting it on TV. In reality, ping pong is talked about more because it's on Sky. You know, if it wasn't on Sky and Sky wasn't on for the next 5 years, it'd be looked about a lot less because the only people who would be watching it would be the people there, and then you'd watch it after, and it would be the same as all other sports. So it's getting it on the TV, but it's getting interest and getting people to understand it more. And that's difficult because table tennis itself is such a different sport to the average person playing it, as we said, when it comes to rubbers, when it comes to spin. So that's the first part. The next part is really just getting the characters that can be related to within the sport, so people you can follow. And that's difficult because if you look at even football, it's really big because of club football. And I know table tennis, especially in the UK, there's just not that club element where people would really sit there and follow how a club's doing outside of people who play table tennis. So the only way to make it bigger is to get it out to the general public to be more interested in it. And that is characters, trying to change the sport, trying to make people understand it better, but it comes down to someone being able to follow people, so you're excited to see what their results are and excited to see how they get on, and that is not easy. I mean, I know the guys have changed the ball again, made it bigger, but I mean, we did that. I remember writing the thing on my university degree about how to increase table tennis, and it was talking about it made the ball bigger then. You know, it changed to 11 points. It tried to make the smaller, more exciting. So I think you can try everything you want with the actual sport itself, but it's more about getting people out there to actually have an interest to follow people and actually want to watch and find out what is happening, what the results are.
So Gareth, do you feel that we need to train youngsters to be more PR and marketing savvy? Does it have to be instilled in them from a young age so that they know they've got to be aware how to create interest and publicity for themselves?
Yeah, for sure.
Possibly. I mean, for me, I think the answer is simply about interest. I would argue that if Ronaldo and Messi didn't play football, there'd be less people. If they didn't play football, there'd be less people watching football. Yeah, so for me, it's much more about the individuals. If you want to get it big, it's about the individuals. Like I said, with ping pong, I only watch it because I know the players. There's a British contingent there. If they were all Asian players, for example, or German, French players, I just wouldn't watch because there's no reason for me to watch. You know, so I think in terms of how you make a sport bigger, I do think we need to produce superstars. I think you need to produce people with character as well. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. I would say that. Again, sorry, Terry, I'll talk about you again. But with Terry and some of the things that I've seen from him, sometimes it's quite amusing to watch. And I guarantee that if he was on ping pong, he'd be on Sky Sports News straight after.
I agree with you, but the character like Terry was world number one. He would get incredible publicity.
Oh, unbelievable! But even if he wasn't, if Terry was say done what Desmond Douglas did in table tennis, or Liam Pitchford, for example, or Paul, he would be he'd be the biggest table tennis star I believe in the world.
What about Darius? Are you saying that Terry would outshine Darius? And if Darius world number one?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just about finding.
Answer the question. Would Darius get as much publicity as Terry Young if he was world number one?
No.
Darius,
I don't know, man. I don't know about that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
I have to say, from watching Terry and Gareth and Blakey and all of those when I was growing up, the most interesting character I always turned up to want to watch was Terry, because it was so unpredictable.
Exactly.
What could happen? It was the unpredictability of it, and anything could happen, and it was hilarious sometimes, and that's what I think is needed.
Darius, you accepting that?
No, I mean, I love Terry, but I mean, obviously, my track record, I think it shows that I had a big, strong following. So I think I'll just say that I had a track record of Fred Perry, Coca-Cola, who does a worldwide advert. Not a table tennis player. So I mean, I think I would just say that. Nothing against Terry. I love Terry. Terry's a big brother.
But Darius, they might not want to watch you play matches because of that. They might know you because of that. But I'm talking about if your Coca-Cola advert, for example, if you're playing the quarterfinals of the World Championships, that has no impact. If Terry's playing the quarterfinals of the World Championship and he's behaving like I've seen him behave, like Gav said, it's funny. He'd be on Sky Sports News.
Yeah, but of course, but hang on. Can I say one thing? But it's like having a Nick Kurios, the Australian player, and then you've got someone. Well, I mean, I didn't get to the highest level, so I can't really comment. But I mean, it's like you got someone that's a bit of a nutter, interesting, and you got someone has just a natural fan. There's loads of athletes with a great natural following that people want to follow from the underdog story. So I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I don't really care. So I mean,
I'd agree with that, though, Sky. Because if you look at tennis and you look at Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, they're pretty much three of the most respectful, nice guys out there, aren't they? And tennis is still huge. You know what I mean? I think you follow people for different reasons. You follow Federer because he's just such a nice guy, he's so talented. And
but they're legends, Blakey. Who's more spoken about, Kurios or Del Potro? Because Del Potro got to what was world number 3, world number 4.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. The characters we're talking about. What I'm saying is, it's not just about that to make the sport big.
Of course not.
If you've got all-time greats, it's more about getting the sport big. If they were playing table tennis, them three, no one would know they are. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay, Gareth says that if Terry Young was world number one, he would be like the biggest character. But who is the biggest character? Who is someone that in recent years that hasn't fulfilled the potential, but if was the world number one, it'd be absolutely unbelievable for table tennis. Gareth said Terry Young. Has any of you got any other names? Darius
like Michael Mays. I don't know what level Michael Mays is.
Yeah, Michael Mays. Yeah, Michael Mays is that guy. Michael Mays is that guy. Yeah, Michael Mays.
He's just a character, isn't he?
Michael Mays has got the full package because he's also very talented.
Well, bigger than you, Young. Are you saying that he'd be bigger than
No, he wasn't as wild as me. He wasn't as wild, but he had everything. He's ridiculously good looking.
For sure.
He is a character, so he loses his rag and he's unpredictable. He's great to watch, and he's also really good table tennis, but also very, very down to earth.
Approachable.
Cocky, believe me, he's cocky, and he's cocky because he's got reasons to be. One, he was good at table tennis, but also because he was good at pulling the birds. He was always good. I mean, his main focus was table tennis, but he was a kind of, I suppose, a Federer stroke Waldner stroke
David Beckham. Is it David Beckham at table tennis?
David Beckham, yeah. 100%.
Moving on to the next question. Geeks is a word that was used by Terry Young. Terry Young said that there's a lot of geeks in table tennis. Our sport, does it need more aesthetic pleasing? Does it need to be a little bit more glamorous? Is the way our women and men dress affecting the attractiveness of the sport? And I'm throwing that out there.
Match, yeah, I'm all for that. Best of three, let's go. Let's get it crazy. Let's get some drinking. Let's just get it like a volleyball match. I'm all for that.
Terry mentioned about snooker. Do you see our sport as everyone's got to be quiet, or does the crowd getting involved make the watcher, the viewer, more interested in what's going on? Examples of what should happen at table tennis tournaments. What should be happening in the crowd to make it more interesting?
I think that it's a difficult one, but I think a lot of it revolves around the social aspect of it, the drinking, the almost promoting that it's okay to be have a bit of a jolly up. You know, even when the players are out of the tournament, if they can have a drink and watch the games and can act normal, you know, and have a bit of a laugh and a giggle, I think that will help. I don't know if it's going to make a massive difference. To be honest, I don't know, but I think there's no harm in trying.
I think you have to get the characters. You have to get people to want to go and watch the sport. People have got to work a bit more together. There should potentially be 4 big events that everyone would go to watch, you know, and everyone would want to watch, and it'd be quite exciting for someone to win that. I think what everyone's doing on things like social media, even with guys like Darius, with Will Bailey and these guys, they're characters outside of table tennis. You need that because people will then be interested in watching to see how they get on.
Let me ask Gareth Herbert a question. Sorry, because Gareth, I'm going to ask Gareth this question. Gareth, does it matter why someone comes into a venue at a table tennis? So what I'm saying is, are you going to be happy with a table tennis event? 5,000 people come in there, but only 500 really want to watch the table tennis. The other 4,500 are more interested in what's going on around the event. As Terry said, having a few drinks, socialising, etc., etc.
No, I don't think it matters because I think it adds to the experience. So one of the last clubs I played in Belgium, what I found, which I was quite surprised at, even playing in the Super League, is that when you go away to matches, even our home venue at the time, there is a bar. And there is, you know, there are people that are going into these clubs to have a few beers. Table tennis just happens to be on at the same time. So what happens is they get involved. After 2 or 3 beers, table tennis looks quite good. And I think everyone sort of touched upon in the darts. I mean, I remember I spoke to Barry Hearn about this in about 2010. And he said basically, and I can't remember the exact stats, but he was talking about darts. And he said a very small percentage even knew who was playing. Because you've got the stags, the weekends, the hen nights, the parties, the nights out, and so forth, it created an atmosphere. Not many people knew he was playing, but everyone was very, very excited. So I think in terms of making the sport big, I think they're the sorts of things that we do. If we were to watch darts, and I will watch the World Championship darts, I think it's interesting. But if there's only 30 people watching, I'm not sure I'd watch, because if there's only 30 people in the actual arena, I should say, I don't think I'd watch.
Because of the crowd play a part in your experience.
Sorry, I missed the first bit, Sky. Sorry.
No, the TV shots that go on the audience.
Yeah.
That plays a part in your experience.
It does, definitely. If there's no one watching, I just turn over to something else, because you want to see, you hear the shouting and screaming, and you hear the songs and so forth, and you want to be a part of that experience. And it's like, again, Jean-Michel Save is a massive star in table tennis, and we played against his team, and he had like a following of people in the same Logie sort of the club that he played for, and they would sing songs, like Gavin was saying. They had songs for every single player, and you look around, everyone's smiling. They're sitting there, they're standing on a stage with beers.
During the point and during the
a little bit during the point if it's a particularly good point, so that could happen sort of towards the back end of a point if it's particularly good, but in general terms it is in between the points. But the atmosphere is fantastic, and you look around and everyone's smiling, everyone's really happy and enjoying the experience, and the players get involved in it, and the players start playing more for the crowd, and you see a bit more acting up just because of the experience around you. I would say that if you didn't have the star, as in Jean-Michel Save, the well-known star, and you didn't have those people in the background a little bit merry and getting excited about the songs, the experience would be, well, be nothing. There'll be no experience.
Moving on. Thanks. Gavin, do you think that there is enough opportunities in table tennis for companies to get involved? Some sports have gone more PR-wise, allowing companies to come in, sponsors on shirts, on sleeves, on banners or barriers. Does table tennis allow companies to come in and get exposure in that way? And would it help?
You're muted, Gavin.
Gavin, you've muted.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. Yeah, we certainly want that. But the reality is you've got to look at, when someone's going to make a substantial investment, what are they going to get back in return? And unless you've got someone who literally loves the sport and just wants to pump loads of money into it, it's very rare you're going to get someone who will do that in table tennis right now, because the rewards, it's not on TV. You don't get any footfall into the arenas. You don't get the exposure the brand would need to warrant their investment. And I think with that, the biggest thing is, if you look at any Olympic sport where the Olympic actually is a big thing in the sport, then they are not as well viewed as sports that aren't in the Olympic Games. So I know tennis is in the Olympic Games, but it doesn't actually matter. People don't really care about who wins the Olympics. What they care about is who wins Wimbledon. If you look at football, again, Olympics isn't a big thing. If you look at darts, not in the Olympics. All these big sports, snooker, not in the Olympics. When you put an Olympic Games as the absolute pinnacle as to what you want to win, you're then driven by funding pots. And I've gone back to it again, and then it puts massive constraints on the sport. So if we're going to commercialize the sport to make it bigger and better and worldwidely viewed, you have to take away the Olympic cycle. You have to take away that Olympic is the biggest thing. You've actually got to make Grand Slams, and we could call them, like they're doing now, the ITTF, the Grand Smashes, the biggest things to win, because then you can actually use the commercial brains which are needed to get these things off the ground, and not sort of driven by a national funding pot which comes from Sport England or lottery. And I think ITTF are going that way. They're trying to get Grand Smashes off the ground where they put big prize money, big sponsors coming in from China. And that could be the new table tennis we see in the next couple of years, where actually the World Championships and Olympic Games become sort of not as important as winning a Grand Slam. And I think the table tennis model will massively follow the tennis model. And I think it's needed. It's the only way, because if you put the Olympic as the pinnacle, you'll never get the investment. What
are the restrictions with players these days? If you're playing for England, you can't have private sponsors on your attire.
You can have private sponsors when you're playing for yourself. If you are playing for England, I think that sponsor would have to be going through the national governing body, which, by the way, again, as I say, probably wouldn't be an issue. The national governing body is always open to investment. But as I say, what is that investment getting back.
Do you know, the type of company that's investing the most in sport at the moment is gambling institutions.
Yeah.
So these gambling companies are putting millions and millions of pounds into sport because they want, you know, the customer, the viewer to gamble on it. How would gambling affect table tennis, Darren?
Gambling is a difficult one because it goes against a lot of people's principles. But like you say, it's so big in so many sports. So I think in reality, it would depend on something like ping pong where it's on Sky Sports. There'd be a benefit to them to sponsor table tennis. Would there really be a benefit for them to sponsor table tennis in general? Because table tennis isn't big enough for people to actually gamble on, you know, to start betting on and things like that. So I think as you grow the sport, you have to be open to taking those opportunities for people like that type of sponsorship. But it all comes hand in hand with actually the sport being bigger and there being an interest in doing it in the first place. But I think you have to be open to those.
Gareth, would you accept gambling companies being involved in the development of your young players?
Yes, yeah. I think it's about educating the players as to the issues with gambling. But I think if gambling, if it was being supported by, I don't see a massive issue with that, because again, you know, some of these gambling companies we're talking about are massive. So if they're associated with table tennis, it can be a really, really positive thing. You know, but side by side, you'd need some education going on with young people, and I believe it's a coach's role probably, and the parents' role as well, just to educate the young people. Yes, we are sponsored by whoever, but at the same time, this is what it means. We don't do it. It's something, you know, it's helping our sport, etc. So the education alongside that would be massively important.
But Terry, if we bring gambling into the sport and then they start dictating how they want the sport run and how they want the sport to look aesthetically, is that a good or bad thing? Terry?
You're muted, Tel. You're muted, mate.
I suppose it's whether you want change or not. These companies invest millions of pounds in trying to promote the sports and obviously their businesses. But table tennis is one of the sports that's needed. You know, when I mentioned earlier about table tennis and the rallies, if you look at badminton's an unbelievable sport. The huge rallies, that's another sport that really isn't optimizing or maximizing its potential. I really can't.
Characters again, that's a problem.
Yeah, and I think, and that's what I'm saying. It's like there needs to be change. You need to promote certain individuals. You need to utilize as much of the individuals and the sport as you possibly can. And like I said again, if you want to change and you want more money into the sport, then it's everyone's responsibility, including the individuals, you know. So yeah, I think that gambling and Bet 88 or whatever they're called, I don't even know. I mean, I'm not really a gambler, but it definitely pulls more interest. And there are people out there that gamble on things that they really, it's the buzz, you know. They gamble on things that they really don't know anything about. You know, they would, and if that brings people in, okay, then so be it. You know, it is what it is. And people who are gambling are obviously old enough to make their own decisions. And if they're losing money and put themselves in an position, unfortunately, that's the responsibility of the individual. But I do think that things need to change, and I think it would be a good idea to certainly look down that avenue as a possibility.
Ultimately, you still got to have interest in those players. And I do think your initial question, Sky, when you said success, I think success is the enabler. So you have to be a strong sport in the country for people to be interested in the first place, but it doesn't make it big. But if you aren't good or one of the top countries, then there's going to be even less interest for sure.
I'm going to ask you each, as the round-up question, one thing that you would say would help table tennis. I'm going to give you at least 5 or 10 seconds to think about that. But we've been on the Void, we've been discussing how we can make table tennis a better sport. And now I'm putting all these guys on the spot now to come up with one thing that could help table tennis be bigger, be more attractive, get on TV more, be more aesthetically pleasing, and be more of interest to the audience. Because there's definitely some kind of audience out there. Because table tennis in the leisure sector is huge. People are playing table tennis all over the world. Got tables in their gardens and table tennis clubs where you can go and play. So I've given these guys enough time to think about it. I'll come to the most intelligent person first, Gavin. You haven't got much competition, but you know. What's the one thing you would do for table tennis to make it bigger and more interesting? You're muted, Gavin.
Sorry, I've got an 18-month-old daughter who screams all the time. If we were able to, I would follow the darts model. So I would look at making it a real experience where people can go on the stag do's, hen do's, have the lights, have the noise, the atmosphere. And I would potentially look at their Premier League system where there's 10, 20 individuals playing in a league.
I didn't expect you to say that. Coach, and you want people going Agadoo.
We're talking in the context of making the sport bigger. I wouldn't necessarily, that's my head when we're talking to make the sport bigger. I don't behave like that when I'm coaching, but you're asking what would make the sport bigger, and I would follow the darts model. Brilliant. Terence Cecil-Young, what's your one thing?
I agree 100% with Gavin on that one. Glamorizing the outside of the sport. I also think that utilize.
No doubt.
No, I'm out of the picture. I mean, I'm been look at that. I'm been and gone. My best days are well and truly over. But yeah, I think that.
Right, moving on. Not enough of that. Gareth, what's your one thing you would do to help promote table tennis?
For me, it's about producing players and allowing character. If you had Terry Young, Darius Knight, and Andrew Eden in one team, and they were playing for medals in big competition, they'd be massive, absolutely huge. In 1994, I remember two things, Sky. One was you hooking and fading against Marmarak, and the other thing was Andrew Eden giving it some to the crowd and get everyone up for it. And I went to school the next day and I said, "Who's that guy?" And Andrew Eden was probably the weakest player in the tournament. So for England, from an England perspective, but that was the person who was remembered. So put Andrew Eden, Terry Young, and Darius Knight in a team, and play them against China in the semis of the Worlds, and I think the following would be absolutely ridiculous.
Well, thanks for saying that you remembered me with someone like Andrew Eden. That makes it feel really.
Yeah, but you were leaning on the barriers, hooking and fading. You were better to watch. He just gave the crowd a bit more.
What's the one thing you would like to see happen to table tennis to make it even better than what it is?
I think it's that excitement. Like the guys say, I think it's that lights and everything, but then some exciting actual events, tournaments. So whether it's like, I don't know, 4 huge events in the UK, everyone has to play. Yeah, there's a real reason for people to go and watch it. And it's quite quick. So it's not like over 4 days or whatever. They're short matches. They're exciting to watch. They keep everyone interested. There's a potential for upsets and lights and everything. So it's that type of stuff. And it's sort of bigged up where there is prize money behind it. At the same time, you do need the successful team, but that all comes in if the sport gets bigger, there's more money behind it, and then there's more money to play towards kids developing at grassroots level. But I think it's that excitement. It's for characters, kids to follow characters and want to be like a character, wanting to go and actually watch them at events and watch them at tournaments, which are quite exciting to watch, really.
Do you know what? I was just going to say, and Darius Knight, but unfortunately, Darius has had to go and tend to one of his 6,000 employees, $400 million. He's had to go and deal with that. I want to throw one last thing at you guys. What do you think about a pro celebrity tournament?
If you can sort it out, Sky. If you can sort it out, Sky, then we'll be watching.
No, a pro celebrity tournament will be, a lot of people will be interested in watching that. And if you mix it in with players as well, I think it would be good.
Yeah. Guys,
Gavin, you're just on mute again, Gavin.
Guys, thank you for taking part in.
One sec, Gavin was saying something there, I think.
Oh, sorry, Gavin. What were you going to say?
Sorry, no, I was just saying, if you had a pro and a celebrity playing on a team together against another pro and a celebrity, that would be pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
Because there are some pretty famous people that love table tennis.
Yeah.
Ronaldo?
Kim Kardashian, Obama,
Michael Bublé, he likes it.
Yeah.
Rolling Stones, Lewis Hamilton, Justin Bieber. I mean, there's a lot of people that love table tennis.
If you did it as a charity event, so the winning pair or whatever, and there was, because I think people would endorse that, there'd be money, and then I suppose the winning team gets to give the funds, the money to their chosen charity. That would be an interesting one.
Here's a question for you: would more people come and watch Marlon or Justin Bieber play table tennis?
Justin Bieber, without a doubt. Yeah.
He's well known. Everyone knows him for every field.
Yeah,
He's gone a bit the other way now, and a bit boring.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe Justin Bieber.
He's a bit of a maverick, isn't he? He's a bit of a maverick, Justin Bieber. Everyone loves a maverick. So I think, and not everyone knows Marlon and care for table tennis, whereas everyone likes music. And, so yeah, Justin Bieber, definitely.
Okay, well, let's hope that Darius has been able to fix one of his 40 lorries. And 600 staff are all well and good. And not getting too down about him having to furlong all of them and only pay. Guys, thank you for taking part. Gareth, Herbert, Gavin, Evans, Darren Blake, Terry Young, and the very rich Darius Knight. Thank you all for taking part. See you all again soon. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks, Greg. Cheers.
Yeah.
See you later.